Welcome to the Dr. Laurie Marbas podcast, where she interviews experts in health and science, sharing their expertise so you can live your healthiest life.
This episode of the podcast is proudly sponsored by Fit Vegan Coaching, the world's leading whole food, plant-based body recomposition program for Gen X and baby boomers. Founded by Maxime, whose personal journey began after losing his ex-fiancée to breast cancer, Fit Vegan Coaching is on a mission to disease-proof the world through the transformative power of plant-based eating and fitness. This program is the Rolls-Royce of plant-based coaching, offering all-inclusive services, personalized plans, world-class accountability, lifelong support, and more. Say goodbye to the yo-yo dieting and embrace a lasting transformation that will rev up your metabolism even post-transformation. Ready to take charge of your health and vitality? Head over to fitvegan.ca, that's fitvegan.ca, and mention Dr. Laurie for exclusive bonus savings when you sign up. Don't miss this opportunity to join the movement towards a healthier, fitter, and more vibrant you. This episode of the podcast is proudly sponsored by The Healing Kitchen, your path to vibrant health. Immerse yourself in the transformative program, guided by the combined expertise of myself, Dr. Laurie Marbas, and Chef Brittany Giroudi, who has lost 70 pounds on a whole food plant-based diet. Here's what's in store for you. Virtual weekly sessions. Engage in an immersive 60-minute virtual session every single week, where you'll delve into the world of wholesome plant-based goodness right from your own kitchen. Cooking with Brittany the first half hour. Unleash your inner chef as you're captivated by Chef Brittany Giroudi's culinary mastery that will delight your taste buds and nourish your body. Medical Q&A with Dr. Laurie the last half hour. Prioritize your well-being during the second half hour. I will personally address your medical inquiries, providing evidence-based insights and personalized advice, empowering you to make informed choices for your health. So join us on the Healing Kitchen to help you step into a healthier and most vibrant future. Welcome to the podcast. I'm Dr. Laurie Marbas, and today we're going to welcome an entrepreneur in the plant-based space from WellBean, Caroline Israel. How are you today?
Good. How are you?
I'm
Glad to be here.
good.
Yes.
Oh, thank you
And
for joining us.
yes, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's always fun to see people trying to move the needle and have, bring business to the plant-based space, really promoting health. So I know that's a challenge in of itself, especially in this food space. It can be really competitive. So can we start maybe back with just your own journey into the world of plant-based eating, and then how the whole evolution of well-being started?
Okay. Wow. We're gonna have to go way back in time. We're gonna go way back to 1988, in fact, before many of your viewers were probably even born. Um, and I was in an undergraduate at University of Arkansas, and I read an article in a little local newspaper about uh, eating animals, using animals for food, and that prompted me to read Animal Liberation by Peter Singer. And then I had grown up eating animals. My grandparents raised chickens and pigs and cows, and my grandfather always wanted to give me a calf to raise. And even when I was a child, I knew there's no way I could do that because I loved animals, and I was like, there's no way I can raise a calf and then sell it, for slaughter. So I'm really glad that I didn't do that. That would have stuck with me for a long time. But anyway, I was raised eating animals and didn't give it too much thought until I read that article, and then read Animal Liberation, and then I've just never looked back. I mean, I went vegetarian then and there, and then vegan, shortly thereafter. And but like most college students, I was not concerned about my health. I was just concerned about animals, and so I, just ate a junk food vegan diet. But over time, as I aged, and also as I dealt with my own food addiction, and especially sugar addiction, I got more concerned about exactly what I was eating. It became more important that it was health promoting, and not just about the animals, but about my own health. And so that's, sometime in my mid-20s was when I really started trying to take more care with what I ate, and also get a hold of the sugar addiction. It was just a constant struggle, and caused me a lot of grief for many years. And I guess it was in the early let's see, it was probably around 2005 that I happened to come across, and I was struggling, with my food addiction, and I was looking into fasting, and I came across Dr. Furman's book, Fasting and Eating for Health. And I was not able to stick to the fast, but he talked about how, nutrient dense eating in that book. And then he had just written, it turns out, Eat to Live. So I got that, and I was like, oh my gosh, this really resonates. And I'd read a lot of books about vegan eating, but I was still struggling with the sugar addiction, and I was constantly looking to fix that. So when I read Eat to Live, it really resonated. I loved the science approach, that it was all about the science and really not about the animals at all. And but yet it still came to the same conclusion that eating animals is not helping us at all. We're animal products, and but we needed to focus on high nutrient, plant-based foods, not just being vegan alone was not enough. So when I was able to stick to his recommendations, my sugar cravings started to abate a lot. Uh, and they didn't go away completely. There was another piece that I had to come to really get over that, which was cognitive behavior therapy applied to food issues. And that is what really, that combined with Dr. Furman's recommendations, really finally tipped me over to sane eating. And I still feel relieved when I think about those times, those many years, decades actually, of struggling with sugar addiction, and the constant push me, pull me of that. And
Yeah.
sometimes slipping off my vegan, sometimes going to cheese because I still had a cheese addiction, when I was in that addictive phase. And then I felt really horrible about that because, that wasn't in alignment with my animal values. So
Right.
those were, bad times. So anyway, I finally, somewhere starting around 2005, almost 20 years ago, I really started cleaning up and eating healthier, and became unaddicted from sugar and other food. And then I was actually living away from California at that time. I was living in Asheville, North Carolina. But I moved back here, and then my friend Patty, who is WellBean's co-founder, she was struggling with eating well and had some health issues, and I was always telling her she needed to eat more beans. I was really, on to her about the beans. You got to eat more beans. You got to eat more beans. So anyway, one day she sent me a text, and she's a working mother, although her kids are now teenagers, and one of them's out of the house. And but at that time she, had two young ones, and she had a full-time job, and was always looking for convenience, and beans were not convenient, she thought. So she texted me. She said, we've got to make a bean bar. And I was like, okay, sure, whatever. I didn't really take it very seriously, but we started messing around in the kitchen, or I did mostly. And here we are, five and a half years later.
So, do you mind if we delve into your story just a little bit? Because I think it'll be
Yes.
relevant for a lot of folks.
Yes.
Fantastic. So, when it comes to the food addiction piece, right? Because this isn't a recognized DSM-4, like there's no diagnosis code I can put for a patient on food addiction, but it's a really prevalent issue because of our
Yes.
food environment and everything. So can we speak a little bit? So you took care of the physical addiction piece, right, by eating more nutrient foods, but I think it's so powerful what you mentioned, the CBT, because the mental piece really is, I think, more important sometimes than the physical addiction, because if you don't have this right, it's really hard to get everything else right consistently. Can we talk a little bit about what that process was like for you? Like, what did they say or do in CBT? How did you respond? Like, can you talk a little bit about that? Because I think that's really amazing.
Yes. Yeah, CBT is amazing itself. I mean, it's the most highly studied form of, psychotherapy, and it's kind of the go-to treatment for, depression and anxiety, especially social anxiety, and even insomnia. It's the number one treatment for insomnia. And it turns out that it's highly beneficial for food, for food addiction, or even, I would say, you don't have to be called yourself a food addict to benefit from strategies, from, CBT strategies. And I did not go to anybody for my CBT. I sort of did it on myself.
Mm.
but it wasn't for lack of looking, because for years I tried one person after the other who considered themselves either a food addiction specialist. One time I even checked myself into an outpatient drug rehab program because I was so desperate. Unfortunately, the people running the program were food addicted. You know,
Mm,
they
yeah.
and they you know, they had a great heart, but they also struggled with food. So they did not understand how to help somebody, get free from food. And of course, I went to Food Addicts Anonymous and all those, and I tried many, and I tried a bunch of kind of wacky things like tapping and you know, you name it, and I probably tried it and tried different supplements and all kinds of stuff. Uh, but yeah, it wasn't until I started really focusing on the whole foods and not any, I think before I read Furman's book, I was still eating cereal, boxed cereal or whatever. Now I know that that was not helping my food addiction at all, eating
Mm.
stuff like that and eating processed vegan foods. Um, but then I came across the book, The Beck Diet Solution, which I highly recommend, and it's written by Judith Beck, and she is the daughter of uh, Beck, whose first name I can't remember. He died a while back, but he is sort of considered the person who kind of brought cognitive and behavior techniques together. The father of cognitive behavior therapy. Uh, I can't believe I can't think of his first name, but anyway. Um, so that book, so I really, when I read it, I said, okay, I'm going to do this for real, and I did. I mean, I really did it. It's got a lesson for every day for like 40 days or something, and I went through the book several times,
Mm.
and it's not a quick fix. It's not an overnight fix. It's a long term commitment, and the way change happens is slowly, one bit at a time. I mean, overnight change almost never lasts, and a lot of people know people who lost a lot of weight all at once and then they gained it back, because that's hard to maintain. But when you make small changes in thinking and behavior every day, then that creates lasting change over time.
Mhm.
So so that's what I did, and I'm very pleased. It's a relief not
That's
to have to
awesome.
struggle with that. And so now, I occasionally I will have a real, I call it the hard stuff, a real sugar dessert.
The hard stuff.
Yeah, the hard stuff.
Yeah.
Which I never make myself anymore. I mean, why would I, when I really like my stuff better anyway? But every now and then something will happen. I'll be somewhere, I'll come across something, and I'll eat it, and there's no addiction. I'm not. I don't think about it the next day. Actually, usually I'm like, the first bite tastes really. It's like, whoa, that is wow. But after a few bites, it's just overkill, and I start to feel kind of gross. Like, ugh, I wish I didn't do that. I don't really like
Mm.
that anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but it took me a while to get here, and
Mm.
I, just encourage people to stick to it.
Well, that's fantastic. No, I really like that. In ACT therapy, the acceptance commitment therapy, it's
Yes,
kind of like another iteration of CBT. Works
yes,
great because you're really approaching the thoughts and values and removing the emotional attachment. Yeah, that's fantastic. Okay, great. This is great. Another resource. I'll dive into the Beck diet session. So
yes.
always looking to help patients.
Yeah, don't
Well,
don't take her dietary advice. She does
yeah.
actually. She has another book later where she actually tries to recommend certain diet, but
Foods.
it's based on standard American diet thinking.
Mm,
So I would say apply, whole food plant-based eating to,
with this.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Got it. It's if you can speak to someone, right? You looking at solutions. That's what I started this podcast all those years ago, is because I was looking to try and figure out how are people being successful in overcoming, changing their diets, losing a significant amount of weight, all these things. And so now it's just like an evolving learning. It's just stacking on top of each other. So this is fantastic. Thank you so much for letting us dive into that a little bit. So can we talk about WellBean? Like, how did you decide on what type of beans? How did you come up with the recipes? Like, how does that even get started? I know you were playing around in the kitchen, but that's all. The beans. That's amazing. Like, how did
Yes.
you get this going?
Yes. Well, I had been playing with bean desserts for a long time anyway, and my friend Patty and another friend of ours, they would come over on Friday nights and we would have bean cake. I would make us like some kind of, healthy meal, and then we would have some kind of cake made from beans. So that would be the main ingredient. And so I was determined to get those beans into Patty and into myself too, obviously. And I still love dessert. So I thought, why not get it all at once? So yeah, so I had a lot of history of playing around in the kitchen. And
Mm.
when Patty put me to the task, I just got to play around in the kitchen even more. And this time with, a bar for the greater world at at heart. And we just tried all different kind of beans, and now we have 6 different beans that we use regularly. So they all behave differently. It's very interesting to see how they are different in the bars. And it's been a lot of trial and error. And our most popular bar, the almond fudge brownie, that was the hardest thing. And I thought, how can you go wrong with a chocolate bar? And yet that thing took a lot of work. That was
Mm.
probably the hardest one, but we really have it dialed in now.
Mm. So you were playing in the kitchen. How does this come from a prototype in the kitchen to an actual business? Can we talk a little bit about what were your steps to moving the needle to have this available for other people?
Sure. Well, let's see. We did the usual stuff, like we got a business license, and Patty is an accountant, so everything is by the books. I tell you, she won't do anything unless it's on the table and above board. So we started off, with a business license, and we also went to SCORE, and I forget
Mhm.
what SCORE stands for, but it's an organization of retired people who basically mentor uh, people who are trying to start their own business or whatever. So,
Awesome.
so we went to SCORE and we got a couple of mentors, and that was helpful. So we met with them regularly for a while, and and that really helped us get going, and helped us figure things out. We were pretty clueless about this. So, and we had to get we started out just selling locally. So and California has this thing called the cottage kitchen. So we were able to get Patty's Kitchen certified as a cottage kitchen, which means you can make stuff in that kitchen and sell it locally.
Oh, wow. Okay. That's cool.
Basically, I think the rule is you just can't ship it. It has to be something you don't ship, but you just it was mostly local sales.
Okay.
But so we did that for a while, and finally, got to the point where we were ready to sell online, and then we had to get our own bill. We were gonna well, we actually for a while we tried to sort of sublet a little kitchen and a little vegan cafe, and that was very difficult
Mm.
logistically. It was crazy trying to get our stuff in there. Only in a small window of time, we had to get all our stuff in there, and that was crazy. So anyway, we finally uh, started looking for our own space, and that took a while because Morro Bay is very small, and I hate to drive. So, so I was like, we're gonna stay in Morro Bay. But anyway, we
Right.
finally found our first little own kitchen, and we set it up, and it flooded last year actually.
Oh,
So
geez.
that was a bit of a headache. But
Mm-mm.
we have a guy who helps us, and he was on it the very next day actually cleaning up. And we had a little damage, but not terrible. It could have been worse. But um, and now we're actually in our second kitchen of our own, which is within walking distance from my house here.
Oh,
And
nice.
um, uh, that has had its own set of problems, but I think we're finally getting settled in there. Uh, but yeah, there's a lot. It's a lot actually. If Patty hadn't been in it, I would never have done this by myself. That's for sure.
Mm.
There's just way too much and way too many roadblocks. We run into a lot of roadblocks, and it seems like, I guess, when one of us is down, the other one takes up the slack. Basically. So Yeah, it's a lot. Sometimes I think to myself, how does any small business do it? Because, there's a lot of regulations, understandably. I mean, there's a reason we have regulations is to keep people safe and to keep the environment safe and all that. Um, but it's difficult at
Yeah.
times.
Yeah, absolutely. So are the bars, can we walk through like the different type of beans, like what are the nutrients, how you chose them? What are the challenges with each of them? You kind of mentioned they react a little bit differently. I'd be curious to learn about those.
Right. I hope I can, I don't know if I can tell you specific ways that they're different. We just know that we'll try when we were first developing the bars, we would have to try
Mm.
different beans. We're like, this doesn't work, this doesn't taste right. Patty actually has a much more refined palate than I do because it all tastes good to me. To me, if it has dates in it, it's like it's a sweet dessert. So I'm like, that tastes good. Like, no, it tastes I taste the beans or it's a little bland or whatever. So she,
Mm,
even though I'm the one in the kitchen making the stuff, she's providing her taste bud feedback. And I think that has helped definitely make the bars better. But,
mm,
well, I think the main way, well, one way, like I chose black beans for the almond fudge brownie because they're dark in color and it makes it look, like a rich, fudgy chocolate bar. Like if we'd used navy beans, it would not have that dark. It would be, it would be brown because it does have cocoa powder in it. But so in some cases, that's how I'd choose. That we chose the bean is kind of the color of the bean,
mm,
and what we were trying to, come up with. Um, the other thing that's different is nut butters. Like it's fascinating to me how it seems like, well, they're all roughly the same amount of fat and protein and what have you, but they really behave differently. And peanut butter, in fact, we've discovered that our peanut butter flavors just tend to be dry, and we tried to figure out what is the variable here, and it seems to be peanut butter, or that's the common denominator in these drier ones. And I think that's interesting. I don't think
mm,
of peanut butter as dry, and yet, but it is a legume, so I wondered if, is there something about it? I think it's higher in carbohydrate than other nut butter that are true nuts, and that
mm,
I don't know, but uh, and the other variable, our most difficult variable in making these bars, because we make everything ourselves, is the date paste. Because even though that's really the magic ingredient that allows us to do it, allows us to make a bar that is sweet and it sticks together, and dates are a superfood, really. I mean, you can certainly overdo it on the dates, but if you're going to have a treat or a snack, that's a good way to go. Uh, but we've been using the same supplier really the whole time, and it's amazing. Of course, dates are a natural food. I mean, they're just a natural fruit. So, of course, they vary throughout the season or throughout the year from season to season. And that has really caused us a lot of problem.
mm.
And we don't
Wow.
really, we've worked with food scientists and we still are trying to figure out how do we manage the variability of this date paste because this
Right.
is our main ingredient. So,
Geez.
and we recently tried another date paste and that was a fail. And
Oh, wow.
all our customers are benefiting because they're getting free chocolate peanut butter nuggets right now, because they still taste delicious, but they're just very firm. So we always say
Wow.
just stick them in the microwave for a few seconds and it softens them right up and they're quite delicious. But uh, anyway, now I have a renewed appreciation for our original date paste provider because it, you know it it does the job and we just have to continue learning how to work with it.
Wow. So any orders you're hand making each of these?
We make them like today. Patty is there at our, we call it the WellBean Palace. She's at the palace right now making lemon poppy seed, actually. So, so they'll make like 1,800 bars today.
Wow.
Yep, yep.
Okay. Jeez.
So that'll
Is
last us a couple of weeks or so, and then we'll make more. So we make, when we make bars, we usually make about 1,800, and and luckily we have capacity to make more. You know, we can easily make more when the demand calls for it. But and when we make nuggets, we make about I think it's 300 pouches, because the nuggets have like 4 servings of nuggets per pouch. So we don't make as many, and they're a little more labor intensive. But anyway,
Can you
yes.
describe a nugget versus a bar? What you have that on your website here?
Yeah. So yeah, a bar is gorgeous. A regular bar, it's almost about 2 ounces. And then the nuggets are just little squares. They're about, I think they're like an inch and a half square. And you get 3 squares per serving. So 3 squares equals about a bar. And but they're just in little squares, and it's in a resealable pouch. So you can just eat 1 square if you can. Some people have written to us and said, Caroline, I'm sorry, but I have to cancel my subscription because I can't stop eating them. And I'm like, I know, I get it. And I do get it. I don't fault them at all. I say, you know, that's the benefit of the bars, is that it's a lot, for a lot of people, it's an impediment if they have to actually open another one. But if you have a whole, you know, pouch of 12 nuggets, and they're,
Right.
you know, it's only zip-locked closed, then can be too tempting, because they're super good. And yeah,
Yeah.
it's whole food, plant-based, but you know, I want people to eat their real food first. You know, people should eat their salad and their beans and their, you know, and their cooked veggies and their fruit. And then if they still have room, they, you know, they need more food. That's a great place for a WellBean, but WellBean should not take the place of your beans.
Hmm. So now that we kind of talked about, you said what you like. I know you had mentioned you like to help people transition or discuss that. Can you highlight some of the things that you like to encourage people to do if they're new to the whole food plant-based diet?
Well, yeah, actually, I'll tell you something that the other day I was watching Dr. Greger. He was in one of his webinars, and he said, there's one thing that if you're trying to make a change towards a healthier diet, and you just want to do one thing, then that one thing should be eat beans. So it's like, yes, beans. So,
Yes,
so
yes,
I would
yes,
say
yes.
that, I mean, you know, most people, not everybody, but most people find beans, you know, tolerable. So I think that would be a great way to start to, you know, eat more beans. And is this a good place to talk about the benefit of beans?
Yes,
Yeah.
please, absolutely.
Yeah. Beans are, they are, if you were looking for a magical pill, it really is the bean. And I wish our government would push and promote beans as much as they do, you know, medications, or, you know, or the medical profession should be promoting beans and not statins, you know.
Mhm.
Um, but beans have more fiber than any other food. So a cup of beans has like 12 grams of fiber. And for whole food plant-based eaters, that's not really that much. I mean, I think 12 grams, what's that? But for your average American,
Right, which
I
is the
mean, I forget,
average
I don't know,
intake.
like 75 grams a day when I've
Yeah,
calculated it. But for your average American, that's a lot of fiber. So
it's
I probably would not recommend that you start off with a cup of beans if you're not accustomed to it. But
yeah, that's the average intake, 12 to 15 grams of fiber a day per American. Just that's it, just per day. Like I'm
I
like,
cannot
I
believe
get
it.
that much or more in
In
like
a meal
a
for a
third of my breakfast.
right, right. Yeah, that is fascinating. And but me too, before I was eating this way, yeah, when I would count up my fiber, I was trying to get 25 grams or whatever the recommendation is. I was like, okay, just a few more grams here. And
Wow.
but now, but yeah, obviously eating this way,
Yeah.
you get plenty of fiber. But luckily, it turns out that just eating 20 grams of fiber or of beans a day, which is less than an ounce, it's not very much. It's like a tablespoon of beans, decreases your chance of death by 7 to 8%.
Mm,
So that's
amazing.
amazing. Yeah. So just half a cup of beans a day would decrease your mortality by like 30 to 34%. That's really a
Mhm.
big drop. Uh,
Yeah.
and I mean, there's all kinds of studies. I was looking at some earlier just to prepare myself again with some more factoids here. But the research is crazy on beans. I mean, you're
Yes.
really, as long as you don't have any kind of problem, you know, with beans and any kind of allergy, then there's no reason not to eat beans. And for people who have a lot of gastric distress, I think the trick is to slowly increase your bean intake. You know,
Yeah.
just you might even only start at 1 tablespoon a day, and
Yeah.
then gradually. And in fact, when I first started eating this way, I really just jumped in, you know, full, all the way. And I had a lot of gastric distress for like a year and a half. I was my belly was like swollen, but I was like, I'm gonna do it. I don't care. And then I guess my gut bacteria adjusted or whatever it is that
Mhm.
happens, and
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
now I'm good to go.
Another tip with that is start with lentils. So I tell people,
Okay.
don't, if ever you're cooking with dried beans, just use the indication of how long you have to soak them. So lentils don't need to soak. So those are the easiest to transition first, and then move into kind of the little, and save black beans, those type of beans for last, because it
They are.
takes, if you can think about the time for soaking, that's the time. And you start with maybe it's just a tablespoon or a quarter of a cup or whatever, and just go slowly. But beans are my go-to for everybody. It's like, it's great protein, it's great for your blood sugars, it's great for your cholesterol.
Yes, all
Yes,
that. Yeah,
also
it's
good.
crazy not to do it. Yeah, they're high protein. Everybody's into the
Hmm.
proteins, so they're high protein, they're high fiber, and
Yes.
it's a low glycemic carb.
Yes.
So what's not to love about these
I
things?
I don't know what's not to love. I mean, I grew up on beans because my folks didn't have a ton of money, so we ate according to the budget, and the budget was always plant predominant just because it was cheaper. And I mean, I eat beans most days, every single day. So when we
Well,
transitioned to plant-based, I was like, this is like just more beans, great. So that was to my benefit. But yeah, no, the beans are such a fabulous food, and how fun you get to be a bean advocate and put it in a way that it's even more delicious. Well, not more, but different delicious, but make it more of a desirable dessert. I mean, how
yes.
fun.
Yeah, that's
That's
what I know. It is fun to think about, yeah, eating something that's really yummy, that's like a treat, and still it's you can feel good about it, and you get a half a serving of beans. So I think
yes.
it's kind of fun. But as I said, I do encourage people to this is not a substitute for your regular beans. Because it is a calorie dense food. WellBean it's not a low calorie food. Uh, and I think it should be used, thoughtfully, and not in place of your other foods. But
Yeah, but this would also be really good for, let's say, if you're traveling, or if,
yes,
let's say, you have a good example is, I work with some families that have type 1 diabetic children. This is a great food for them, right? So it's got, some their blood sugars are tend to being a little lower if they're running out the door. This is a great thing. But you have
sure.
nuts, you have the beans, you have, yeah, it's a little sweeter, but bring it up. So really great resource. Can we talk a little bit about the different products that you're offering, like what your service is? How can someone, we'll have the links and everything, but can we just talk a little bit about everything? Because I know you have like mug muffin mixes, and
That's
I'm
a new
like
thing.
intrigued. You're going to be getting an
Uh-huh.
order from me later today. So
Uh-huh.
yes.
Yes, that's actually a new kind of product for us. Well, we released our first one back in I guess it was in December, early December, and that was the chocolate cake flavor. So yeah, you put it in a mug and put in a little plant milk and mix it up and put it in the microwave, and you have a little muffin. Yeah, it's super cool. And
That's awesome.
and you can, depending on how hungry you are. I mean, it's the smallest serving size is you still get a half serving of beans, and of course it's sweetened with
Mhm.
date flour, and it has some whole grain in it, like it's got buckwheat flour, and what else is in that? I don't have it has a lot of ingredients actually, because we also had to put baking powder in there, to help it
Yeah,
fluff up, and we had to,
let me
um,
see. It says ingredients.
yeah, what's in there?
I'm
And
like,
we're
I'm
working on another
looking.
one actually. I'm working on another one, so I've got my
Well, if you ever need anyone to try out your flavors, feel
okay.
free.
Oh,
Send
good.
my way.
Make the sacrifice.
Yeah, I'll sacrifice, no problem. Here we go. It's not a, that's dates, black beans, cocoa,
Oh yeah, the bean.
almond flour, flaxseed, cacao chips, buckwheat flour, baking powder, of course, potato starch, things for that, and then vanilla bean powder, or that's it. Yeah.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, and the flax seed. I mean, that's another. It ends up being I think it's 7 grams or a tablespoon of flaxseed. So it's
Wow.
you get a little dose of flaxseed there.
Yeah.
And then we have Fiesta Chipotle. That's our second flavor, and that one's
Oh.
pretty yummy. It's savory, of course, not sweet. Uh, and that one has a little bit of a bite to it, not too much. I would have liked more spice, but you know, I think I like mine a little more spicy, but we had to take it easy on the spice. But
Yeah.
that one's also made with black beans, and then it's got the buckwheat, and I think it's got cornmeal, and of
Yeah.
course flaxseed and some almond meal.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, these are actually pretty low fat considering you got, I mean, like, so I don't want people, we have nuts and stuff in here. It's only 6 grams of
uh-huh.
fat, which is what, about a quarter of that. So 54 calories or so is from fat, and it's low saturated fat or zero saturated fat when I'm looking through. So this
Yes,
is
should
a
be. Yeah.
fantastic product.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
it's got almonds and flax seeds, so those are the two. And we put that in there, well, the flax to kind of hold it together, like act as an egg binder kind of thing. But
Yeah.
and also for the health value. But and then the almond meal, I put that in there for to give it some kind of moisture and a little, you know, something. Yeah, it really we did a little. It didn't take us that much really to get the recipe that we were satisfied with. You know, and again, Patty is like, well, I think it needs a little this or that or the other, and then I make some changes, and then I give it to her, and finally she's like, yeah, okay. So now we're working on our third one, which is peanut butter blondie. So I'm kind of excited.
Oh,
Yeah,
that.
I'm kind of excited about that one. That's another sweet one. And then we're going to have another one, falafel. And a customer
Oh.
emailed the other day and said, can you make a nut-free one? You know, and I was like, oh, okay. So, because I actually already have the falafel recipe for the most part, but now I'm going to experiment with it and see if I can make it nut-free, because I forget that there are so many nut allergies out there.
Mm.
So that one will have, tahini. It's got like well, it's got basically sesame seed, ground sesame seed,
Mhm.
basically. Um, and anyway, I'm gonna play with that and see if I can make it without the almond flour, because that's really the only nut in there, and there's not even that much in there. So surely I can make
Mm.
make a nut-free muggin.
Chickpea flour, maybe, or something.
Yeah, I just want to replace that fat gives it
Moisture.
something, gives it a little, I don't know what the word is, but
Mm.
so I might try
Yeah.
to just replace it with the tahini, or the
Yeah.
sesame flour. Maybe that'll be good enough. Maybe that'll
Yeah.
be better. Actually, it might taste more falafel-y.
This is, yeah, there's so many products. This, guys, you definitely should check this out. It's amazing. I'm already salivating. So I'm like the Pavlov dogs, like,
Oh yeah. That's
So,
funny. Well, isn't it wonderful though to salivate over foods like this? I mean,
mm,
when I was growing up, well, when I was first trying to eat more veggies, I mean, I grew up eating, and my grandparents always had a garden, but still all the veggies were battered and deep fried, like fried
mm,
okra and fried
yeah,
squash and fried
yes.
potatoes. Everything was fried or smothered in Thousand Island dressing. So when I started trying to eat healthy vegetables, blech,
Mm.
that was yucky. And it took me a while
Yeah.
but now I love it. I mean, people always say, "Oh, I can never eat like that," but they don't realize that your taste buds. It's all about your taste buds, and
Mm,
every person in this country or in the world is just a few uncomfortable weeks away from
mm,
enjoying this way of eating,
mm,
and it is uncomfortable for a while. But if you can hold the faith
mm,
that your taste buds will change, because that's really all it is the taste buds have to change, and then you'll enjoy your food just as much. I mean, I enjoy my food now just as much as I enjoyed those McDonald's Happy Meals when I was, growing up.
mm,
Um, and now I can salivate over a fresh head of romaine lettuce if I'm hungry. I'm like, oh
mm.
my God, that looks good. So it can happen to everybody.
And I love that how you put that. It's like you're just a few uncomfortable weeks, but honestly, it's amazing because I think there's so many other benefits. People feel more energy, they sleep better. So it's not even so much uncomfortable in the sense of, yes, your taste buds are adjusting, but you feel good. So there is some nice balance, I think,
Right.
as people transition. Um, this is great. So I always get these questions. So I'm going to ask, can you share with us what you eat on a normal day-to-day basis? Because people are always curious.
Uh-huh. Yes, yes, yes. So what I eat is I've rearranged it in the past few months, but because I eat pretty much the same thing every day. I mean, the vegetables and fruits might change, but I eat very consistently. But so for breakfast, I have a pound of cooked vegetables. So
Mm,
every Sunday, I make a big pot of soup in my instant pot, just all veggies. And I use the frozen Costco veggies mostly because it's such a good deal, and a lot of them are organic and it's easy. So I just put all those, I saute, water saute some onions, and then put in 1 can of tomatoes and then all my veggies. And then I delve it out into small little cute little containers and put a couple of them in the freezer and the rest of them in the fridge. And I eat that as part of my breakfast. And then I also have a fruit, fruit and flax
mm,
with my breakfast. And then I'll usually end up having a little WellBean or I might test out a muffin to top it off. One of our mug muffins or something like that. Uh,
mm.
but then for lunch, I have my giant salad with beans. And anybody
Awesome.
who knows me knows about, it's a pound of raw vegetables. And usually I start out with 4 ounces of power greens, the Costco power greens, the spinach and the kale and the what else is in there? Chard, maybe, I forget, but it's like three different greens. And then then I'll, tomatoes and bell peppers and some more and raw onion and some grated carrot and or purple cabbage and all that kind of stuff. So it's like a whole pound. It's a huge amount of raw veggies. And I have that. I have a corn tortilla from Trader Joe's, one of those just plain, corn, water, and lime tortillas with beans. And then I have my beans on top of that, and then I have my salad on top of that, and usually some avocado or some. I love tahini. I've gotten to where I love to just drizzle tahini on anything, really. I love that stuff. But like on my salad or on cooked veggies,
Yeah.
I love tahini. So that's what I have for lunch. And for supper, I'm not as hungry at supper, so I tend to uh, do different things where I'll just have a little something. But I guess the main part of my supper is usually a smoothie, uh,
Mm,
and I have a little add in with some all the vitamins and minerals that a friend of mine makes this little add in kind of for me personally. Has a little extra calcium and my vitamin D and my B12 and
mm,
some zinc and iodine and those things.
mm.
So I have this smoothie at night, and
Nice.
that is the main, and then again, there might be some well-being in there. Sometimes I'll make a loaf of whole wheat bread. I don't eat
Mm.
much bread, but sometimes I will make my own loaf of whole wheat bread. I made a seeded one the other day. It was so yummy. And then I'll just have a slice of that with my supper.
Nice.
Yeah, I don't eat that many grains really. I do focus more on the beans and the other things, but I might, yeah, if I had some whole wheat bread or some Ezekiel bread, sometimes I'll have something with some Ezekiel bread, but yeah,
Oh, that sounds fantastic. And
yeah,
you're doing it nicely, like you're eating less in the evening and your bulk of your meals are
yes,
during the day, which is fantastic.
yes,
Naturally your body responds better that way, so that's fantastic. So,
yeah, yeah. I'm definitely hungrier earlier, and I work out in the mornings.
mm.
I either go to the gym and lift weights for an hour, or I go out on my street strider, which is like an elliptical on
Oh,
wheels.
cool.
Yeah,
Yeah, I've
I
seen
love
those.
that thing. I didn't get to do it today because it was raining, so I had to go to the gym and get on the elliptical. But um, I love the street strider. That thing is such a good workout. I mean,
Oh, wow.
yeah, I love it. Like when I'm on the elliptical at the gym, it feels like I have to work hard to get my heart rate up. But as soon
Mm,
as I get on my street strider, my heart just shoots up and it stays up for 45 minutes while I'm just
wow.
tooling along. And I don't know what it is, but I love it. Well, just subjectively, it feels easier, even though my heart rate is up there. When I
Yeah,
check my stats later, I'm like, whoa, I topped out, at least
that's
once, and I didn't even really realize it.
that's
So
fantastic.
I
Oh,
love everything.
you're doing active life, you're eating well, you're sharing this with others. So all I can say is thank you for being a great example of what your life could be. So that's fantastic. Thanks so much.
Yes, I definitely enjoy it. It's fun.
Yes.
Yeah.
So any last bit of advice or thing you'd like to share before we end our conversation?
I just want to say to people to keep trying.
Mm.
Even if you fail, you got to keep trying. And that's what I did. I failed many, many times in my efforts to get myself free from compulsive eating. And I felt hopeless and all that many times. And yet I still kept trying and I finally did it. So I think that would be it. If you try one thing and it fails or you give up, or please don't let that be the end of it. Keep reaching out and keep trying.
Mm. I think it's a beautiful way to share. You should always keep trying and don't feel bad or have shame or guilt for trying to live up to some perfection. There is no perfection. It's just a journey. So thank you again, Caroline. This was fantastic. We really appreciate you.